I promised to go into a further discussion of some of the non-recommended variations of collecting money in the short sale process. There's a lot of ways to do it. Real estate's complicated, and there's so many ways to make money in real estate in general. You're slightly more limited, though, for you as a seller in a short sale transaction. I want to go over the benefits, the positive and negative benefits, in more detail than I did when I first listed all of the ways to collect money in a short sale in the introduction. First of all, regarding the brokerage rebate that I recommend you do, where you negotiate with the realtor to give you back money. One problem with that is that you are limited to a percentage of a percentage. You're going to be making a percentage of what the agent collects as a fee. If you get a good deal with an agent, then you can collect a very high percentage. Otherwise, it'll be a lower percentage. Some people will have the title company pay their own company on the HUD, which is similar. It's just that in your own company name will go right in where a broker's name would go. And then, of course, the benefit of that is you collect the full amount. You as the seller won't be able to put your own name right in that space, because if the bank sees it, they're not going to like the fact that the person that's causing, in their mind, them to lose money is suddenly making money on this. However, if you put your company or your friend's company, they couldn't see that when they looked at the HUD. That is a possible way to get paid. It's not very elegant. The upside of doing that is that you get all of what you collect. You don't have to give any of it back to an agent or have an agent be giving you parts of that back to you. Also, the amounts you get paid are disclosed to the lender, and that is good. Still, there could be legal implications in doing this because you're getting paid directly as a percentage of the transaction. You're not getting paid, like say, as a brokerage rebate, in which case you could at least justify that as something you worked for. You actually did a service to the broker to create value. And it's not that you're getting paid really on the sale of your house. You're getting paid for working hard for the agent that sold your house. You would want to make sure that the title company is okay paying you this way if they're paying you directly. The title company has to be okay with that, and you may want to run it by an attorney. All of these ways, as I said specifically before, to make sure that any of the things that you plan on doing are legal for you in your situation. Talked about writing in a processing fee for your company, for your real estate agent's company, for your company, or for you or for someone you know. These fees usually get cut, but sometimes they don't. I talked about that. As I discussed in the DVD, typically you would stick those fees on line 705 in the HUD, or in like a free space between 1101 through 1116, or possibly on 1305 or 1306. You can find those on the HUD 1 example that I give you, either the form or one of the printout examples. And as always, if you're putting in fees for payment, I recommend you writing those to your brokerage if possible, and you getting a percentage back. It's just so much better that way, and I think it protects you getting it back from the brokerage. You should always insert a processing fee no matter what, just because it's something that you can negotiate with. The other variation I talk about is inserting yourself as a lien holder. I mentioned in another part of the course that you shouldn't do that because you're not a lien holder. However, at least not typically, normally you don't put a mortgage to yourself on your own house. You could still there is a variation of this that could work out very well to pay off some of your other debts. For instance, if you have a credit card that's behind, but it's not a judgment yet, you could negotiate with that credit card. Say you owe $12,000, you could get them to accept $2,000 as payment in full, which is very common. Then you could get your lender to allow you to pay $2,000 to your credit card company, and you just put it right in the HUD, and you put it where you would put a normal like second or junior lien. If you have a bunch of junior liens already, it'll be hard to do that. But if you don't, you could put it in that spot where you would pay a junior lien. The truth is, if it's not a junior lien now, it will if you don't pay it, because it'll become a judgment and attached to your house. So if your lender approves it, then the title company will just write a check straight to your credit card company, or whatever, it could be your car. I mean, it could just be making that you negotiated a couple payments for your car, and it goes straight to your car company. Whatever it is, that's extra money that you didn't have. Normally the lender will accept it. They won't ask, hey, what's this about? They'll just figure that it's required to be paid and allow it to be paid. Moving on to other variations and explaining a little bit more in depth, you can work with an investor and create an agreement that they will pay you for something in the house. And regarding that, be very careful. Number one, if you're going to do that, if you're going to work with an investor to do a short sale and then they resell it immediately and make money on your house, there's good investors that can close. But number one, many investors talk a good game and they have never closed a single short sale. Or if they are experienced, most of them probably have about a 10% rate of short sales that they actually work on that they can close. They will also likely not be looking out for your best interest at all because they only profit when they get the house way, way, way below market value. Some investors will write up a bill of sale to purchase personal property to justify any money that they give you back, and that's a good thing, although if it's completely bogus, I don't know how good it is. You may want to have them write that bill of sale up front. They will buy certain things from your house if they close, maybe at a little bit above market rates. You have to be careful though, because many payoff letters specifically specify that a buying party must be a disinterested party. So doing this could amount to a violation of that and could be considered fraud or wrongdoing, or if it's not fraud or wrongdoing, at the very least, it would nullify the payoff letter. Would the bank ever find out? Probably not. But just you got to know what's happening and understand that the bank does have certain requirements. An investor can make 10 to 30% profit flipping a foreclosure if they get lucky and if they hit a home run. So a small percentage of that could be quite large for you. If they give you, 20% of that, it could be a significant amount of money. And the investor might be tempted to possibly walk away with that. So be careful. Make sure you're working with someone that you trust. Working with an investor can be like dancing with the devil. I also talked about using a double close. Basically what this amounts to doing is being your own investor to flip your own house. I have to tell you, this is an advanced strategy. I've been an investor before, and even someone who's had a lot of experience in thousands of dollars of training, it can sometimes have a lot of things that are just difficult to do. It requires specialized skill and knowledge. It's a very complex process, and there are potential legal pitfalls as well as just pitfalls about how to close a house with a short sale. A lot of title companies will not close a double close that's required to flip a house in a short sale. Even if they will, you have to make sure that they're doing it in a legal way. There is a legal way to do it, but it's actually pretty difficult. As far as legal pitfalls go, you have to consider the fact that if you're going to beat up a lender so that your friend or you can steal the house and resell immediately for a large profit, that could be looked at a little bit funny by a prosecutor who's looking back at the deal later. If you're selling it to a friend or interested party, you may be precluded by the final negotiated acceptance letter, which is certainly the case in an FHA loan, that when you sell to any interested party, you're not allowed to do it. That's just in the acceptance letter, they say you agree not to do that. So if you're doing that, that could be a legal pitfall. Make sure you check everything over with your attorney. I've said that over and over again. Like I said, there's legal pitfalls, but the potential profit is amazing by comparison. With a realtor, you'll get a certain percentage of 3 to 6%, maybe a little higher if you're lucky. But if you're flipping it, you could make 10 to 30%. That's a lot of money. If you have a $500,000 house and you make 20%, that's $100,000. It's a lot of money. Let me go over the basics with you, how a transaction where you actually flip a house, you negotiate a lower payoff, you arrange a buyer who simultaneously sells it to a retail buyer, okay, and you collect that spread. That's the way of doing it. The basics are this. Number one, you agree to sell the property to a friend or friendly company that your friend owns or you own. You can negotiate a price way, way below market value. You then find a buyer that will purchase for much higher. You get the buyer's financing ready and bring the buyer to close on the property. Usually, to make this type of flip legal, your friend or buyer will actually have to bring cash to close the property. They would normally only do this right after they have learned that their buyers, the end buyer, his funds are actually ready to close. So they close real quick, 24 hours, the next buyer closed, and then in between those two sales, there's some money to be made. It has to be two separate sales in order for the money that's collected in between the negotiated amount and the final sales price to be collected and realized. Otherwise, the bank is going to see that money is being made and they're going to want to make that money themselves, your short-selling bank, that is. I can't go into too much more detail. However, I recommend You do not do this unless you're willing to get some training from the good folks at Strategic Real Estate Coach. They train investors how to do this, and they are the most cutting-edge real estate investment training firm in the business. You can Google the Strategic Real Estate Coach blog. In my opinion, they have cornered the market in instruction on how to flip short sales, do it legally, and do it ethically. They're classy people and they're skilled. They also have just highly trained and very, very skillful attorneys on their team that have worked out the details so that title companies all over the United States can close these same short sales. If nothing else, just subscribe to their blog and you get some good info on what they do. In order to do this title close, it is really important that you are guided by a local title company that does this type of transaction on a regular basis. You find many title companies that won't do this, and partly it's because you don't know how to explain it to them. However, some of them wouldn't do it either way. When you do find a local company that's familiar with the double close, you can ask them to refer you to investors or quick turn that know how to do quick turn short sales, and they can help too. Sooner or later, you'll find it. If you really look around, you will find a company that does do double closes and can help you flip your short sale.